So, well, all my life I have been working on hydrogen. Since I left the university, I immediately joined Toyota, where I then at that time designed the hydrogen car, but also I built the first hydrogen refueling station in Belgium. And then in 2016, actually, I moved to the European Commission, where I was responsible for the hydrogen program of the European Union. So we financed more than 369 projects and so on. And then, because I was first research in Toyota, and then I did policy making and also research policies for the hydrogen sector. And then we saw that in Europe, actually, the regulations started to be shaped, and that things were really starting to happen. And then it was like, okay, in 2023 was a decision that, okay, I go back to the private sector, because now it's the time to really show that hydrogen is a realistic solution for our decarbonization. And this is where I actually looked up for partners to work together to drive this mission, because there's a lot of people talking about hydrogen, big companies as well, but we need to get it done, you know? And so I was looking for the right partners at that time, and so that's why I found my partners for engineering, my partner in construction, and then also a finance partner who share the same passion and vision to make the hydrogen economy a reality. Then together with four of us, then we looked at the best place in the world to produce the hydrogen, because that ultimately is about the cost. So, as I said, our goal is to make the hydrogen economy a reality, you know, and cost is absolutely the most important one, and also meeting the European regulations that were very new, the RED III regulation. And so we traveled the world. I mean, we went to Africa, we went to North America, the Gulf Coast, we went to India, really everywhere in the world, also Latin America, obviously. And so we have like a big checklist, you know, and we went through the list and we said, oh, actually in Brazil, it ticks all the boxes. And that was the reason why we selected Brazil, because it had green grid. The grid here in Brazil is fully green. I mean, in the Northeast, it's 98.5%. And if you look in the world, there are very, very, very few places where it's like that. And that saves you a lot of investment, because European regulation is talking about additionality, correlation time, and so on. If you are below 90%, we have 98.5%. So we do not need that part to meet that part of the regulation. Secondly, your renewables here in Brazil are actually quite cheap, compared to other parts of the world. Especially if you look to Europe, it's very cheap. I mean, so that's very important. Why 65% of the cost of a molecule of hydrogen is actually electricity cost. So if you start high, you will end up high. So it's very important that you can purchase your renewable electricity at a very low price. So finally was the question of water, because water is also important, and that's why we ended up actually in Piauí. So the Northeast has a lot of renewables, has meeting the European regulation, but not everywhere in the Northeast you have water. And Piauí is a state that fortunately they have a lot of water. And so combining, because what do you need for hydrogen? Water and electricity. So both they have in Piauí. And that's why we selected Piauí. Plus, I have to be also fair, the governor of Piauí, Mr. Fortelis, he's an amazing governor. He's very young. He's really a scientist, he studied mathematics. He also participated in the Olympiad. He was like third place in worldwide. So he's an amazing, smart guy, young, and he's fighting for his state. And so he was really, the way he supports us in the project is amazing. I have never seen that anywhere else. So for us, the political support, and then meeting, the European regulations in terms of electricity, and then the cost of renewables and the water there, that made us deciding for Piauí. Look, the European Union needs to decarbonize. I mean, we have set very strong targets in Europe. I mean, quotas in certain sectors in Europe. One of, just to give you an example, one of those quotas is, for example, the current grey hydrogen. Today, Europe is producing around 10 million tons of grey hydrogen. And so they set a target that 42% of that by 2030 needs to be green or low carbon. So that's a huge target. I mean, we have 5 more years to get there. And so this creates opportunity. Now, producing hydrogen in Europe is extremely expensive. So that means that somebody needs to pay that premium. And at the moment, we feel that in Europe, there's very little appetite to actually pay that premium because things get more expensive. Now, looking to Brazil here, is that basically we can produce here in Brazil one of the cheapest hydrogens in the world. And so when we export that to Europe, we are very cheap over there, which is actually a possibility to take that cost into their, their companies in Europe. They can really absorb the cost, and the premium you need to pay is not as high, and so it's doable. And this is where basically I said Europe and Brazil are really good friends. They should be good friends. They are really very good partners. They have win-win, because here in Brazil we can create good added value jobs. New technologies can come in from Europe, from Germany, because in our project we're going to have a lot of German products that we're going to use, produced in Germany, but then in exchange we're going to send the cheap hydrogen to Europe. And so there's a win-win for both continents. So for the European Union, this project is super important. This is also why this project has been endorsed by Ursula von der Leyen. She really endorsed the project because she sees that Europe needs this project. So Vale is for us a very important partner here in Brazil. I mean, you know, it's one of the Brazilian champions, Vale. And we're also working with another Brazilian champion, Electrobras. So it is very important to align with them, because they know the country, they have something to say here in the country. You know? And so our contribution to Vale is actually we bring our new technologies. We know how to integrate hydrogen and then the steel sector. We know how to produce hydrogen in a cheap way. And for them, this is a gigantic step forward, because they can accelerate their decarbonization efforts. So what we're going to do as well, because Vale is not really very well known in Europe. Probably the steelmakers all know Vale in Europe, but outside of the steelmakers, Vale is not really well known. But the political domain and so on, people don't know them. So that's why basically our partnership is actually also to bring Vale to the European market, to be able to sell the iron ore and the hydrogen. But at the end, when we started the discussion, it became very clear that actually the best way to ship the iron ore and the hydrogen is through a product, and the product is HBI, so hot briquetted iron. And so now, together with Vale, we are building our project where basically we're going to deliver as Green Energy Park the hydrogen, where Vale is going to deliver the iron ore, and together in a consortium with steelmakers, and we're talking with several German steelmakers, with a consortium of steelmakers, we're going to produce the HBI and ship it to Europe. What is very important is that we have been working now for almost a year with Vale, and we have done a very big study with Vale on what is the cost of green steel in Europe using Brazilian produced HBI. The conclusion was that the cost is the same as today fossil fuel based steel. So that means finish to talk about a premium, green premium, no need. We can produce green steel in Europe using Brazilian HBI at the same economics as today fossil fuel steel, with 80% CO2 reduction. This is the project of Vale and Green Energy Park together. This will help and save the European steel industry, because we will stop losing jobs. Today, the European steel industry is losing jobs. And we heard, ThyssenKrupp and others, people are getting fired. We need to stop them. And And the only way to stop that is to make sure that we stay competitive with the steel prices, but with green. And there again, as I mentioned before, Europe and Brazil are natural partners. Working together, we can keep our steel industry. So for us, this is, of course, extremely important because we talk about the steel industry, and steel industry is also politically very important. I mean, there are thousands of jobs all over Europe working in the steel industry. So, and also we see now today a lot of news in the news about the problems that the European steel industry has. So it is also a political issue. So getting the endorsement as being one of the, let's say, flagships of the global gateway was extremely important to get also the political support to move faster, because we get attention. The politicians say, yeah, this is an important project, so we need, and also for the Brazilian government, then okay, this is a priority project for Europe, for Brazil, and we can go faster. We get support, especially also the financing side, and so we get a lot of support from the European Investment Bank. In Brazil, obviously, the BNDES is here, the Development Bank of Brazil, and we all together work hard to actually accelerate this project because Europe needs this project. So this endorsement is very, very important, but also to attract investors, because the financial investors get the guarantee that this project going to happen because it is a European priority. So on a short term, of course, I mean, we want to be, let's say, more introduced into the Brazilian system. Yes, we came, I mean, the first time I came to Brazil was actually in November 2023. It was not the first time in Brazil, but the first time was Green Energy Park, and where we actually met the governor in Piauí. And so since then we have really been researching and trying to understand the Brazilian system, the ecosystem here in Brazil, and we are still learning every day. But now we reached a point that we really say, look, this project is really going to happen. We have all the elements there. We have research on the electricity, on the water. We have basically all the building blocks. But now we really need to make it happen. And for that, we need to build also in Brazil our own team. So we are setting up our office now in Parnaíba. We have now a team there. Gradually we are growing. We are hiring the team there. We need your support of AHK to the networking and to connect us with the broader ecosystem here, because we were always working in Piauí, you know, because that's where the project is. And then yes, we went sometimes to Brasilia and so on, but we are not yet a true Brazilian company. And so we really want to establish Green Energy Park Brazil as a true Brazilian company, and we hope with AHK you can help us to network, to bring us in contact with many players, so that Green Energy Park can be seen as a true Brazilian company. On the other hand, also, I mean, we're gonna use a lot of products, I mean, so from Germany. So those products need to be shipped to Brazil. So how do we deal with all those imports? We are in a free trade zone that has advantages, but there will be a lot of, let's say, a lot of administration work, a lot of regulations. For us, everything is new. We have never done that. So we hope also with AHK that we will be able to tap into your knowledge and to your network of maybe other people know it. So how we need to bring on an efficient way all those equipment on shore from the German companies. So there's a wealth of let's say activities that we can do together, and so and helping to spread also within Brazil the Green Energy Park project is super important for us, because we need to win the hearts of the people also in Brazil. It's important that they see that this is not only a Europeans coming here, taking the beautiful renewable electricity and ship it to Europe. No, this is a project that will help in the Northeast to create fantastic jobs, to bring industrialization, into the north part of Brazil. Because today a lot of industrialization is in the south, but it's time also that in the north of Brazil we get some industrialization projects over there. This, let's say, this energy transition that we are now living in the world is a fantastic opportunity for the Northeast to create that industrialization, that they need that. I mean, to create good jobs, we need to get, really the people need to get good jobs, because the younger generation is otherwise moving away. So we have now hired, last week, 4 new engineers, really just graduated from the university. Fantastic engineers, really amazing people, very smart, fluently in English, but if there would not be green energy plant, they would go to Sao Paulo or even abroad of Brazil to look for jobs. These projects are an opportunity to stay in the country and to create also their families here and stay with their family. And I can tell you, we talked to a few parents of those young people, and they were so happy because they can stay together. So, and I think the whole energy transition gives, of course, economical benefits for companies like us, but it also creates a social positive impact in the Northeast, and this is what the Green Energy Park stands for.